This is Monday Motorsport with Lester Forbes on Motorsport Radio.
Hello and welcome to Monday Motorsport on Motorsport Radio. My name is Lester. Thank you very much for tuning in. We are live right now. And wow, it's been a hot one, hasn't it? Yeah, unprecedented boiling weather in the UK for the past few weeks, really, which has meant that everybody's been sort of feeling a bit tropical and a little uncomfortable, not used to it. And yeah, we'll be desperately trying to stay awake and not have a siesta during the show. But anyway, on tonight's show, we'll be talking about everything great that happened in Austria at the weekend at the Red Bull Ring in Formula 1, plus Formula 2 action, and where was Lando Norris in the grand scheme of things, the best British young talent since Lewis Hamilton, probably. He is storming the Formula 2 standings and the championship, absolutely doing brilliantly, and we will update you as to his progress as to what happened at the weekend. Also, GP3 happened as well. We'll give you an update as to everything on there. And also, because it's the halfway point in the season as well, already, amazingly, British Touring Car Championship, we will talk about that and get an update as to who is looking pretty good, who's coming good, who is probably not as good as they probably should do at this halfway point. And Plato, what is going on with Jason Plato? If you haven't been tuned in or paying attention, well, we'll give you an update, a full update, as well as look ahead to the big anniversary race, which takes place at Snetterton as well in this special anniversary year for touring cars. We'll also dip our toe into the World Rallycross Championship as well. And with me tonight, it is Connor Jackson of the Checkered Flag. We've got quite a lot of Checkered Flag people here this evening. Hello, good evening, Connor Jackson.
Hello, Lester. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you very much. So what was you doing at the weekend? You weren't out at racetrack or anything, was you?
No, it was a quiet weekend for me. I want to say I spent it in the house, but I think that would be that would be lying, considering the good weather we've been having here in the UK.
Fair enough. Okay, so a nice chilled weekend, I suspect, for you. And so yeah, we before we get on to talk about some Formula 1 news, just in case you didn't actually see any F1 news, we had some big, massive breaking news in British Formula 3. This news broke just literally before we went on air, involving Jordan Kane, a super talented young Englishman who's announced he's quitting racing at the grand old age of 17. And this is a big shock to everyone who has followed Formula 3 over the past season or so. Jordan Kane, just to put a bit of perspective behind why this is such a massive shock in British F3, Connor.
Well, it's as a driver, he came into the season with an awful lot of expectation on his shoulder. While we didn't really get an announcement to him doing a full season until the second round, we only assumed his first round was sort of a one-off. He was very impressive during his half-season last year, in which he picked up 3 victories and finished 8th in the overall championship, despite missing 2 rounds for being too young to even compete. Prior to this, he has obviously been a regular racer in Formula Ford in the United States, where he was, again, successful there. But coming into this season with minimal testing, it was surprising to see how quickly Kane was immediately up to speed. He was one of the quickest in the speed traps and currently lies 5th in the championship. But sadly, it looks like this has all come to an end. He had originally planned to do a year in Formula Renault, but unfortunately funding did fall through for that, and funding is the reason he is cited for his coming to an end. He's always admitted that getting to each race week was always very difficult, and I think the budget just hasn't come for Spa, and along with a number of other issues, he has cited racing becoming an increasingly dangerous sport through what was quite quite an interesting statement from him on his social media. He cited obviously a number of incidents he's had throughout the year, including the incident he had at Alton Park at the opening round in which he broke his thumb.
Yeah, he did say actually on his social media where this news did break a couple of hours ago, which read, I'm not going to read the entire thing, but yeah, it was a huge shock to say the least, just because of some of the things and the successes. I mean, I last spoke to him, Jordan, on the podium at Silverstone, the most recent round. So the performance was definitely there. But on social media, Jordan Kane saying, a farewell to racing. After a lot of thought, I've come to the difficult decision, he says, to not continue with my racing career. I've had a great time and have managed to set a few records along the way. The reason for my decision is that I'm just being realistic. Motorsport more and more is about money and not talent, and the only chance of a good career is to buy it and not earn it. People don't realise it's becoming an auction now just to get a seat in a top team. He goes on to basically thank all of his people who have helped him. But yeah, he did allude to the other concerns, which I think you were just touching on there, Connor, that he has, this is part of the statement that he said, he says he's not scared of racing, but he does feel it's not worth taking risks or risking serious injuries or worse when the odds of getting a racing career are so low. In my short time in cars, he says, several people I know have been seriously hurt and 2 have died. In all cases except one, it has been another driver's fault. He says, I was lucky to walk away a few weeks ago when I was broadsided by an idiot driver on slicks in the wet on his outlap when he missed the end of the straight. He was travelling at over 80 miles an hour when he hit me 12 inches or so further up the car, and it would have been very bad. As you said, Connor, at Alton, he broke his thumb because of as he says, another driver who shouldn't even be on the track. He's so bad. He doesn't name him, and we're not going to name that other driver. But yeah, I have reached out to Jordan and his father as well, Grant, and they're not saying anything further. But it's not like, it's a really, really strange one, because usually when a driver, if it was just literally about budget, and this happens, it's so common really in every motorsport, somebody runs out of budget, they run out of money, and they have to stop the season. You know, whether it's 2 or 3, 4 races into the season, it just stops dead. But this is slightly different. He's actually saying, I'm actually going to stop racing altogether, move on to something non-motorsporty. I presume that's reading between the lines. Anyway, if you're going to stop racing, presume you're going to walk away from motorsport as well. But a huge shame, I would say, and a big shock as well, because as we said, he definitely had the pace, and he was on the podium at the most recent round in Silverstone, and he will be missed if he doesn't come back. And I say that because I really do hope he does come back. He wasn't even meant to be doing this year, as you said, Connor. But he was a late last-minute announcement at Alton Park where he suffered that broken thumb. But your thoughts on his very short, very bright, super talented career so far, though, Connor?
Well, I was always impressed with Jordan. He was a driver that really did stand out despite his minimal budget, and the year he spent at Douglas Motorsport has been an incredible achievement, considering the fact Douglas aren't really a front-running team, and he's really been punching above his weight. He's outperformed his teammates on most occasions, and even if we can say maybe he wasn't Formula One bound for financial or career trajectory reasons, then he was clearly on a course, in my opinion, for what would have been a good career in racing. He had talent and was one of the best British guys on the grid. He's the second highest British driver in the championship at the minute. And it is a shame to see him go, because I really do think he could have had a career, even though he seems very pessimistic about that sense. But hopefully we'll see him around the paddock at some point again. And as you say, Lester, he might move away from motorsport entirely, but if he doesn't, it'll be interesting to see him do something more social, say as a driver, coach, or as anything part of a media or a publicity team.
Yeah, exactly, and certainly if Jordan is listening, or his dad Grant, everybody who knows him knows that he is too good to quit. But as I mean, if his heart's not in it, or he knows that there isn't the budget there for it to be sustainable, or maybe he does just genuinely want to do other things, having felt maybe that he succeeded or took his career to the level where he thought he could probably take it to, and he can't take it anymore. Either way, if he doesn't come back, he will be definitely missed, and I hope he does come back. But yeah, that's a big shock for a young man who's literally just turned 17, and he just turned 16, as he was he made his British car racing debut, I believe, at Snetterton in British F3 in round 3 of last year, and he could have had an option to do British F4, but he decided to wait and do British F3, which meant, obviously, for a young man with a bit of money or a bit of budget, I would imagine that would have been a very painful decision to have to make, and whilst you could go racing, to sit on the sidelines perhaps. So yeah, difficult decision, but a courageous and brave one nonetheless. So Jordan Kane, if we don't see you again, we will all remember you. I will, at least, and I know Connor definitely will, and anyone else who's followed British F3 over the past year. So yeah, so that's the big news coming out of British F3 this evening. And well, Connor, what else has been happening in well, it's not happened this week, but European F3, talking about the championship in general overall. I know last week there was they were on the DTM bill. And well, I'll tell you what, we'll get to the European F3 a bit later on. Let's not combine all the F3s all in one go, shall we not? We will, however, welcome your comments on tonight's show, because what we are doing as well, we're doing a bit of a special thing, which we have not really announced as such. We've been a little bit cheeky not announcing it, which is totally unlike me, because I like to announce things well in advance, I'd say. But yeah, what we are doing this evening is we are going to be making a big announcement regarding motorsport radio, motorsport media, and something called the Motorsport Awards. What is the Motorsport Awards? I will tell you a bit later. You'll just have to literally just wait and see, I suppose. So yeah, Motorsport Awards. Tease you about that later. You may have seen somewhere something about something, but yeah, it is basically what you think it is. It is a Motorsport Awards. More details on that later. But this is Monday Motorsport on Motorsport Radio. My name is Lester. Thank you very much for tuning in. We are very much live, and we're about to talk Formula One, and we're also welcoming our other two panelists for this evening, both from the checkered flag as well. Please welcome Phil Kinch. Hello, regular contributor who's not in his usual front room, Phil Kinch, and also as well a brand new contributor for the show as well. Please welcome Stuart Richards. Hello there, Stuart.
Hello, Lester. How's it going?
Very well, thank you very much. So yeah, we've got a nice little box of 4 if you're tuned in visually, which we don't often do, but hello anyway. So Phil Kinch, and so Stuart, I suppose since not many people will know you since you're making your Motorsport Radio debut, I suppose, just tell us then what have you done in the past and what sort of motorsports are you into?
Well, in the past I've only really been at the checkered flag, really, and I cover the British Touring Car Championship and the Renault Clio Cup for them. I've been a British Touring Car fan for my whole life, and motorsport's just been a big fan of my life, so that's where I am now. So
okay, that's pretty clear enough, I suppose. Yeah,
just love it. That's it. It's all good.
It's sometimes just as simple as that. Sometimes you get people like Connor who like everything, and Phil who likes everything, and me who tries to like as much as possible but just never manages to cover any much things.
We'll keep educating you, Lester. Don't worry about it.
That's exactly what I need. So yes, we'll be talking about the special anniversary race in touring cars, as it is already. Can you believe this, guys? It is halfway through the season already. Incredible. So we'll be doing a general update as to what's been happening if you've been keeping your eye off that particular ball. No ball analogies tonight, please, especially with the soccer ball. Yes. Formula One, and I think everybody apart from Phil watched Formula One at the weekend.
No, I managed to catch some as well. I caught some on Friday and some on Saturday and some on Sunday as well.
Excellent. So that's good then. It's coming into the Red Bull Ring in Austria. It was. What was the hype going into? I can't remember. So much happened, to be honest. I think it was all about whether it would be Vettel, Hamilton, and just having a huge, big fight at the top of the championship. If you don't know what happened, there's going to be a bit of a spoiler here. It was actually probably, I would say, one of the best races of the season so far, maybe, in the unpredictableness of it. I even made a prediction as to who would win. I didn't predict the correct one. But anyway, lots of racing happened and lots of shocks and surprises. Let's start at the back, shall we, in the old results, because, the Mercedes suffered a gearbox problem for Valtteri Bottas. It was an early DNF for him, Connor.
Yes, Bottas obviously started on pole position as he had last year. Went into the race with an awful lot of expectation to really impress. He'd obviously beaten Hamilton quite convincingly in qualifying, and it was interesting to see whether he would keep the lead into the first corner. As it turned out, he didn't, and Bottas was quickly jumped down a few places because of some argy-bargy with Kimi Räikkönen and his teammate Lewis Hamilton. But he managed to run a good race, and by about lap 3, Bottas was back in the action, back in P2 behind Lewis. But unfortunately, it would not be, as his engine eventually gave up on him after not even half race distance, and he wouldn't be the only driver to suffer a mechanical issue because of the heat that was going on in Austria. And of course, the track itself obviously is characterized by its very long straights, by its hard braking zones, and that does put an awful lot of stress on these engines. Nico Hülkenberg himself obviously ran out with an engine failure, but it was Bottas' teammate Lewis Hamilton that I think brought the surprise of everybody.
It was it seemed like at one point that they were all sort of dropping like flies, because there were definitely a lot more retirements as favoured Red Bull cars seemed to be at the front end of the pack very early on. Daniel Ricciardo also suffering an incident. What was the why did he retire again? Was it engine? What was the thing with him?
Ricciardo's, I do believe, was the engine as well. It was a case of just mechanical issues up and down the field, and Ricciardo was no stranger to this. He hadn't made the best of the pit stop strategy that had unfolded during the middle of the race, and he clearly didn't have the pace of either his teammate Verstappen or the leading Ferraris and Mercedes, and he had been dropping back at some points with various technical issues, but eventually it all decided to catch up with him, and in the latter half of the race the engine did eventually give up, resulting in pulling off at the side of the track. A very big disappointment for the Australian, who does drop back in the championship as a result, but it'll be interesting to see if he can fight back in the following rounds, because he will want to get momentum back up against Verstappen, having prior to this round not finished in front of him since his Monaco Grand Prix victory.
Exactly, yeah, it was a big surprise, I suppose, a day of big surprises in the Austrian Grand Prix, because it seemed like it was turning into a massive nightmare for Red Bull, because shortly after Ricciardo had DNF'd, then the Toro Rosso, Brendan Hartley, he also came a cropper as well. And Stuart, you also watched the race as well. What were your thoughts when all of this was unravelling?
Well, this is the only second race I've seen this year, and I thought the reliability of these cars would have been greater, but obviously the outside influences. It did surprise me, considering the high caliber of the drivers pulling out, and think when Ricciardo pulled off, then Hartley pulled off. There I wouldn't say there was anything going on, but it's it's just the surprise to see first Bottas go off, and you think, oh no, not again, because after what I think, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't something similar happen to him at Azerbaijan as well? And
yes.
Yeah, and also I think it was the only track where he'd taken consecutive pole positions as well, because he did that previously as well at the Red Bull Ring. So, yeah,
of all the places where he would have wanted to go well again, and for that to happen to him, he must be definitely questioning his luck at the moment. But then to see his teammates suffer this, I don't know whether it's similar what happened to him, but I don't think it would have brought too much sort of like relief to him. But it may have thought, okay, it may not just be me. It is something to do with our cars. But then obviously they'll be back to their form by the next Grand Prix, I believe.
Perhaps they will. Yes, perhaps they indeed will. It was a Bottas DNF, and also a Ricciardo DNF and a Brendan Hartley DNF. And then came, the massive news that there was, during I think it was the virtual safety car period for, I think it might have been Hartley or Ricciardo, when everybody was making their stops. Lewis or the team decided to not pit Lewis for new tyres, and this was caused, let's say, a bit of frustration over the team radio with Lewis. He was biting his lip so hard. What was the actual quote? I'm trying to stay. Yeah, because it was the engineer who came on and said, I have lost the race. And he was trying to calm Lewis down, wasn't he? So that was something that you almost never get to hear as well.
Yes, I mean, I think it was quite good what the engineer admitted to Lewis. I mean, very often in sports you do get these incidents where trouble happens with a particular team or a particular manager, let's say, in charge, and sports people often don't admit this, and the blame is proportioned onto other people. Again, not mentioning the obvious sporting competition that's going on right now, but there are instances where people will often blame the opposition, blame the adverse conditions. But this was a great opportunity for Mercedes to prove that they will win and lose as a team, and they are prepared to admit their mistakes, even in front of Lewis and the cameras. And as much as Lewis, as you say, was biting his lip, very frustrated at the team, ultimately it was good from, I believe it was James Allison on the radio, to come across and admit that a mistake had been made, and Lewis just needed to sort of get on with it and try and get the best result he could, and prove to the team, if nothing else, that he was still the talented driver that we all know him to be. It did mean ultimately it was kind of it was mute, really, his anger, because he retired from the race ultimately anyway. So yeah, he was going to probably retire anyway, and regardless of the fact whether he pitted or not was kind of irrelevant. So yes.
Go on.
Yes, but we didn't know. The point is, we didn't know this at the time, Leicester, and it was good for the team to sort of show themselves up when they still had an opportunity to do well, as opposed to say after, when Lewis retired, when they could have just apologised and admitted anything.
That is true, and it was I think I was watching the Sky Sports F1 feed, and it was a big admission anyway, and Martin Brundle said, and also Ted Kravitz, a lot of people as well, said that, he was very brave, James, for actually admitting that it was a big call, just to actually come on the radio in front of hundreds of millions of people, say, listen, I have lost you the race, instead of that team sort of, we've lost the race today, we will fight back again, we lose as a team, we win as a team. Instead, no, one guy stuck his hand up and said, actually, it was all me. It's unusual in any motorsport, isn't it, Phil?
It is. I'll be honest, as we all know, and we're fully aware, motorsport's a team game, and at the same time, as you say, they all win together, they all lose together. It's not often, I'll be honest. It's very rare I've heard an engineer on a radio in a Formula One race or in other types of racing as well to admit they've made a mistake and potentially lost a race for the team. I've got to say, as Connor was saying earlier, and the same as Stuart, some of the cars were falling out like flies at one point. Being the oldie of the group, shall we admit, it reminded me of 1987 when the Williamses were fighting at the front and everyone else was just falling out like flies. So it's one of
Monaco.
No. This is Austria as well.
Oh right, okay, yeah. Yes. I was thinking of the that was 84 Monaco, I think.
Yes, when 84 Monaco, yes.
Nobody wanted to win.
No, that's it. 86 Austria, sorry, I should say, correct myself. At one point, for an example there, you had Prost and Senna falling down the back of the field, and there were so many cars retiring in between, they made it back into the top 6. So, yeah, bit of a car breaker at the weekend, but also at the same time, this is what Formula One's about. You build the best cars, you push them to the limits, and you see exactly how far you can get on, the tiniest bit of fuel, the tiniest tweak of a setup. So yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I must admit, from what I saw, it was a pretty good race. And I'll be honest, I think it's good to actually have seen Red Bull win on home turf, if we can call it. The Red Bull ring, ironically. So yeah, no, I thought it was pretty good. But yes, as I say, team game. We all win, we all lose, and they'll fight on this weekend at Silverstone.
Exactly, yeah, they do move on to Silverstone this week as part of I think F1's first ever triple header weekend. Yes. This weekend. Do we know anyone who's actually going? I know Silverstone has various financial packages available for anyone who, as soon as you have to start sort of taking out like a mortgage or something similar, just to get a race ticket, mate, your prices are a bit steep. I'm not going, not for that reason. Yeah, actually for that reason. But many other people will, I'm sure, enjoy this weekend at Silverstone, the home of British motorsport. And Silverstone played host to, now this will be perhaps a good comparison. How many, do we know, Phil, how many were there at the recent Speed Machine weekend at Silverstone? I
saw a figure of, let's try and remember, I'm going to try and remember, around about 29,000, I believe the figure was. So, but again, packed down in the small Stowe circuit area, so a lot smaller. You've obviously got the entire Grand Prix circuit. Yeah. If I remember correctly, Mr. Brundle quoted a figure of 95,000 apparently expected over the weekend.
Yeah, I think that 20-odd thousand might be good as a representative figure if you put it up against maybe a Friday. Even a Friday, I think Friday you probably get just as many on the Friday turn up because the cheaper tickets, obviously.
Yes,
than on the Sunday. Although I don't know, I've not even bothered to see. I got an email from Silverstone like last year advertising for the Grand Prix this year. Finance packages available, and I thought, no, mate, I don't think so. Sorry, I'm not taking credit out just for Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel. Not worth it, basically. Anyway, that's another debate for another time. But it is outrageous, though. Let us know your thoughts. How outraged are you at that? And have you actually done the deed? Have you actually took out finance? And I suppose if you're in debt to Silverstone, they owe you a good race.
They do.
So could you sort of complain if they don't give you a good race, or you don't have a good experience, or the hot dog's a little bit pricey or too hot or whatever? Then surely you could, I don't know, like renegotiate terms. And could you actually get Silverstone bailiffs coming around knocking on your door if you don't pay up? Who would do that? Anyway, that's... my mind's just going crazy.
Yeah, let's calm down.
Sorry, it's just anyway. Just financial packages. I mean that I can hear, like I can almost see pound signs ka-chinging Alan Gow's eyes. Silverstone can do that. Maybe we can get the Tourcast.
I thought it was David Richards now.
Yeah. But Formula One. Back to Formula One. Then it was Max Verstappen who took a very, very popular win. If you didn't extrapolate that from everything that we already said. Max Verstappen winning by. In the end, it was a fast charging Kimi Räikkönen, not something that's ever said nowadays. He was closing the gap to him. Ended up just 1.5 seconds behind him in the end, with Sebastian Vettel. Who did not actually get team orders, and he wasn't told to sort of move over Raikkonen. And a great result as well for Romain Grosjean as well. 4th place in the Haas. Unbelievable result, really, considering that everybody was on his back, wanting him to fail almost, wanting him to do badly, and he didn't do badly. He put in a Grosjean-like performance, i.e. a good performance. I believe in Grosjean. Just saying. I don't know. Does anyone have any other opinions on that?
Well, as you say, it was a good result for the Haas, Leicester, and it's nice to see them coming back up the order. Obviously, we all remember the Australian Grand Prix and the disaster that was that, but they've really sort of come out of their shell this year. It has been annoying with their reliability, and that has sort of let them down at the end of the race. Qualifying and practice seems to always go very well for them, but getting the actual race result has been a little bit of a hiccup. I mean, Magnussen takes 7th in the Drivers' Championship thanks to his 5th place result, but that's only by a single point over Alonso, simply because Magnussen's had a few issues this year with actually getting the car successfully working to the end of the race, while someone like Alonso or even Hulkenberg has been far more consistent with it. But again, further down the field, it was a good result for Leclerc, who again beats his teammate, but Ericsson himself did actually score. So it's again great to see the drivers at the back of the field, like Grosjean, actually get a good result from this race and benefit from what was torrid reliability for some of the drivers at the front.
You said a lot there, which I don't disagree with. Anybody else have any, just before we move on, any other final thoughts about what happened in Austria in Formula One? No? Okay. Fair enough.
Good.
All right.
Stuart's chatting away there, but nothing's happening. There we go.
Sorry, go on then, Stuart.
I was going to say about Charles Leclerc, how he actually went off track on the first lap, and he was quite a way behind, and his drive was probably drive of the day, to be fair, if Verstappen didn't win, but it was pretty decent. I
feel like Leclerc has a lot of attention from the FOM directors on him.
Because he might be the next sort of like a Ferrari man, the publicity he might be getting.
He did emerge. I think it was unofficially revealed by some journalist and not mentioned at all by Ferrari at this stage that he has signed to race at Ferrari, which in and of itself is quite unusual, because Ferrari almost usually take a very, very experienced driver as one of their racing drivers. So maybe they learnt the lesson having lost out on Gilles Bianchi. Maybe they were just perhaps grooming him a bit too long, for example. Maybe it is time for Ferrari to just get some young blood in. Someone maybe like Charles Leclerc, and he has been I think he is already a Ferrari test driver anyway, or he has been anyway for a few years, so it's not like they don't already know him. But yes, that will pretty much be, I think, confirmed. I think, pretty much.
See, when I hear sort of like a race contract with Ferrari, I think they're going to drop him down to some sort of like GT3 series instead of up to their Formula One seat. It just sounds like there's nothing set in stone, really.
I don't think anyone would be surprised if that actually did happen. But I think we're all presuming. I mean, Kimi Räikkönen now, the oldest man on the grid, he's finished second in the race yesterday, which kind of counterbalances the thought that he's probably a bit past it now.
Well,
but then he goes and finishes second.
You could argue. I mean, he's picked up 5 podiums already this year, and
well, so he should in the Ferrari.
Well, Vettel's only scored 5 podiums. Just happens to be 3 of them were victories. So you could argue Raikkonen's actually put in an incredibly consistent performance. I mean, he's not finished a race lower than 6th. He's obviously picked up 2 retirements, but his results have been incredibly consistent, as opposed to, say, someone like Vettel, who, if you're considering him the championship favourite, maybe you're not, but if you're considering him the favourite, his 8th place results in China after his technical problems, and the 4th places he picked up in Azerbaijan and Spain probably aren't reminiscent of what we expect from him. And Raikkonen, after all, beat Vettel in France, although again France was another situation where Vettel put his own situation on the line. But Raikkonen has been there to pick up the pieces and to keep the results consistent, perhaps more than even Bottas has done, who has been a lot more a driver who performs very well or doesn't perform who doesn't perform as well as you expect him to. He's a glory or guts type of driver. I'm sure there's a better analogy.
I know what you mean. Yes, it's a win it or bin it type of person.
Thank you.
Phil, your thoughts about this weekend and what might happen at Silverstone?
Well, I'm going to sum it up. It's the British Grand Prix, which any motorsport fan is going to be supremely happy about. At the same time, you know, everyone who works in Formula One, almost all of the teams are based in the UK, regardless of what the national anthems are played in the podium. So yeah, this is the big one for the industry as far as things are concerned. Silverstone, fast, flat out, challenging, regardless of how many different changes have been made over the many years. So for me personally, I'm expecting to see a Ferrari versus Mercedes fight, Red Bull within the mix, and then, you know, potentially Haas and Renault bringing up the rear. It's one of those tracks, Silverstone, you know, if you haven't got the right setup, you know, if the car has an imbalance in some way, you will find it, and the track will weed it out, and you will suffer the various terms of understeer, oversteer, etc. around a very, very fast track indeed. Like as we said, you know, it's a popular one. 95,000 expected over the weekend. Everyone gathers there, and yet potentially, I'll be honest, I've not heard anything that sort of guarantees it past next year that we're going to have a British Grand Prix. So unless something's changed, you know, basically the circuit needs to put on a really good show. It's got some really good events coming up. Obviously there's Formula One coming up, we've got the MotoGP coming up, and then in August we've got World Endurance. So yeah, plenty of opportunities to get down to Silverstone. Fortunately myself, I'm lucky to be quite local, and in previous experience over the years I've seen lots of Red Bull and teams in the Milton Keynes / Northampton area. So yes, lots of action, expecting a really, really cracking race to be the case, and I will try not to be distracted myself by other tin top action elsewhere around the world, he says, looking innocent.
I'm sure you will do. I'm sure you will be, Mr. Tin Top Guru here on the show, Phil Kinch. So yeah, I'm not gonna exactly ask you your predictions, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But okay. Stuart, what if anything, if you are at all looking, I'm just presuming that you are looking forward to the British Grand Prix at Formula One at the home of British Motorsport. What are you perhaps hoping to see?
All I'm hopeful for is just a good race, really. It's, as I say, Austria was only the second Grand Prix I've seen this year on TV, and I'm obviously not going to be going to the British Grand Prix. But just if I do end up watching, I just hope it is a cracker up front, in the midfield, at the back. I just hope everyone has a great race. That's all that matters.
Let's all have a great race, and
yes, we'll get on.
In terms of predictions, I'm going to refer you all to our website, motorsport.radio. Why? Well, we've recently launched a brand new predictions league. Yes, the excitement. You can log in and make predictions on almost any type of motorsport, depending on whether I've put it on that week. But yeah, it's kind of like the way that you'd go betting and gambling. So you get all the fun of predicting any outcome in motorsport, from MotoGP, BSB, World Superbikes, TCR, touring cars, BTCC, Formula 1, GP2, Formula 2, GP3, British F3, British GT, basically everything, anything. If it's on TV and it's good, then you can predict the outcome of it. So you can have all the fun of making big predictions and showing off to all your friends how amazing you are at predicting certain things, with none of the crippling depression of having lost a load of money. So there you go, motorsport.radio, our predictions league is live right now. So head over there, join up, it's all free, and it's all for fun, most importantly as well. Nobody's actually winning at the moment. I don't think anybody actually won much, but mind you, I've not updated the thing.
Are you just saying that because you're losing, Lester?
I said there's nobody winning, so... Let's just leave it at that, shall we? So yeah, motorsport.radio, and you can click on the social tab and down to Predictions League and get involved. It's good fun, I promise, and it's rather addictive as well. And so right, we'll get on to talk about Formula 2 in just a short second. But before I do, we'll remind you that this is Monday Motorsport on Motorsport Radio. Hello and welcome. My name is Lester, and we've got a full panel of experts. Yes, they are really experts. They're all from their checkered flags. Connor Jackson, Phil Kinch, and brand new to Motorsport Radio. You may not have heard his voice before, but he is brand new, and we welcome him to the show. It's Stuart Richards. Hello once again, Stuart.
Hello.
And yeah, we will get on to talk about, amongst other things, the World Rallycross, which happened at the weekend. And also, we're looking ahead to the big anniversary race at Snetterton in the British Touring Car Championship. Too many championships knocking about, I think. I have to cut them down. But yeah, since it is halfway through the season already, unbelievably, we're going to have a bit of a half-season update as to the movers and shakers and the what you can expect in the second half of BTCC a bit later on. And also, before all of that, we've got a big, massive announcement, and it is truly a massive announcement in that tonight we can announce here on Motorsport Radio that we are very proud to be the official media partners of the brand new Motorsport Awards. So, what are the Motorsport Awards? Well, it's a new venture, a new independent venture launched right now. This evening, in fact. It's motorsportawards.com, and it's not associated with any other traditional media outlet, but Motorsport Radio is very proud to be the official media partner. And there'll be lots of various categories taking place. The awards ceremony happens live online right here on motorsport.radio in December. I think it's the week after the Autosport Awards, so it's just before Christmas, and it will be the nice wrap-up to the entire season, and you will find out who won what, and more importantly as well, who and what big categories are available to win. So you might be thinking already, well, exactly what is available, what can you win, and well, I suppose over the course of this evening, I think we'll just tease you with exactly what the Motorsport Awards are and some of the big categories that our team have painstakingly put together as well. We will be, we'll all over the course of the next few months, between now and December, we will be drip feeding more bits of information, as well as how you can get involved potentially as a commercial partner as well, and or how you can even nominate yourself to win a prestigious Motorsport Awards. And that's really the point of them. They are set up to one day be very prestigious. So the big categories then in the Motorsport Awards for 2018 include Driver of the Year. Big category for this one. Also, Rider of the Year. Rather self-explanatory. There's also the Team of the Year. And that crosses every single type of motorsport. Bikes, cars, karting, anything. We've also got a Young Rider of the Year from age 16 and below. And there's a Young Driver of the Year. And also we're looking for the Best Battle in a motor race as well. So all sorts of different types of awards will be unveiled already on the website motorsportawards.com. Check out the full list. But tonight on Monday Motorsport, on Motorsport Radio, we'll be giving you chunks, I suppose, rather than just go through in a massive, big, I suppose, blob of information. We'll be unveiling different types of award. But yeah, generally, guys, very exciting. Brand new thing, Motorsport Awards, and it takes place in December. And, well, Phil, Connor, and myself, and Danmar, and Kiko Giles, and the rest of the Motorsport Radio team are all on the judging panel as well.
Ooh, that looks like fun. A good new set of awards to have a judging of. That should be interesting.
Exactly, and as I said, it will be all live streamed right here, the same way that you're also consuming this show as well. So yes, Motorsport Radio, delighted to be the official media partner of the Motorsport Awards. It's the first time this has ever happened, and it will be the official and only Motorsport Awards, because every other awards thing is called something else, basically. But yeah, I can see Connor Jackson's already looking forward to it.
Oh, of course, Lester. As you say, we've been talking about this for a while, and it's fantastic to finally get it unveiled and released. Obviously, we'll hear more about it throughout the evening, and hopefully we can reveal some more categories. But it's a great incentive for a lot of national talent to get involved, and it's a good chance for riders and drivers to really make a name for themselves and sort of get noticed in on a lot larger stage. I mean, you also noted with the Young Driver and Rider of the Year award for under 16s, and a lot of these young talents do need this sort of boost to help get their career forward, and something like this is a perfect incentive to really see who we've got coming up through the order and who we need to watch out for in the future.
Yes, exactly. Some fantastic points. And for more information, as I said, head to the website motorsportawards.com, or, of course, you can just keep up to date with the Motorsport Awards as the weeks tick down, because there's not long to go before the nomination phase opens, and it'll be happening in various different chunks. We'll be taking categories, or we'll be opening the polling, taking your suggestions as to whom might want to win an award. Maybe if you're tuned in and you're a rider or a driver and you think you might want to nominate yourself, it does happen, then you can do so as the nomination phase opens in October. It seems like a long time away, but it's really not. I mean, it's what? July, it's August, September. It's like 2 months away, basically. And so, yeah, and then the official voting for the awards opens in November, closes in December, and that's when we do the full big launch. Motorsportawards.com. Anyway, moving on, because there was other motorsport as well, some actual on-track motorsport and stuff. GP, I keep calling it GP2. I will never not call it GP2, I don't think. Sorry, Connor.
That's fine, Lester.
Formula 2 at the weekend happened, and in qualifying it was the Brit George Russell doing us proud, taking a pole position from Britain's Lando Norris, hot on his heels, and the winner of race number 1 was George Russell, and in second, it was Lando Norris and Antonio Fuoco in third place. But if you didn't know, if you've not been tuned in to the shenanigans involving this brand new car this year, well, it's rather embarrassingly for the championship. Anyway, got off to a pretty bad start. Lots of complaints from drivers, including Arjun Mayani, who had a bit of a rant on the radio. You might have probably seen this. This went viral last week. He was after the race saying all sorts of disparaging things, and it was basically because of the car. And as a result, they decided to have I think a rolling start at the weekend.
Yes, I mean it's been no secret this year that the Formula 2 car was potentially rushed coming into the season, being built, and as a result, it's perhaps not as high a quality as many of the drivers would like. In a championship such as this, where it does come down to the driver's skill, you do want a car that's not only consistent for all the drivers, you want it to be consistent with its reliability. After all, you don't want the championship decided purely on a reliability sense, which is something Lando actually suggested might end up being the case towards the end of the season. And if that is the case, then there might be some hesitation going, obviously, in the future about the championship that never was for a certain driver, let's say. But as you say, coming into this weekend, changes were made that for this weekend at least, there would be no standing starts, because standing starts had been one of the major issues with drivers stalling on the grid, and there had been a couple of occasions where there had been start line incidents in which drivers had hit drivers up the rear as a result of stalling. But
I think to get a little technical, and I don't know all the ins and outs of the technicalities, but I think it was a number of different issues, but one of which, the biggest issue, was something about the clutch or something like that, which didn't help.
Yes, the clutch didn't always engage properly at the start, and that was an issue, obviously, for drivers making their starts off the grid. Obviously, as a result, they took out the standing starts for both race 1 and race 2, and as a result, they started under safety car, which it made the start interesting, sure, but it could have been more interesting.
Almost like an IndyCar start, wasn't it?
It was, but unlike an IndyCar start, they don't have the momentum of slipstream on an oval, which is mostly the point of an IndyCar start. And although there is obviously, again, differences with their car that the Formula 2 doesn't have, but Formula 2 was never meant to train drivers for IndyCar, it's meant to train them for Formula 1. So why practice in a style of racing that potentially shouldn't be useful for them in the future? Of course, realities aside, as it were. But they had also introduced a 15-minute session, an extra 15-minute practice session before the weekend, in order for drivers to practice the clutch, which did kind of shine a light on what really was the major issue. Because before, Formula 2 had attempted to sort of sweep it under the rug as, oh yes, we know there's some technical issues, but they're being sorted, upgrades are coming, it'll all be fine. But the introduction of this 15-minute session just to practice starts really was indicative of a problem they didn't really know how to fix, and were just trying to give the drivers as much training as possible so that it didn't happen again. But as a result, we didn't have that incident coming into the start. There was just a rolling start that George Russell expertly managed and maintained going into the first corner. I'm dead.
Indeed, yes, and also what happened in race number 2, for example. Race number 2, just trying to get the results up here. It was Sergio Sette Camara on the podium in race number 2. George Russell, again, doing brilliantly, almost, very, very, very nearly almost, doing a hat-trick of pole position, race 1 win, and almost getting race 2 when he finished second in race number 2. But he was about 5.5 seconds away from the ultimate winner in race number 2 on the Sunday morning, Artem Markelov. Yeah. No comments on the old Markelov there. Championship standings in GP2 then are as follows. Actually, let's actually go to championship standings. Because George Russell, it's a total Brit domination at the moment. George Russell leading the championship on 132 points. He has surpassed Lando Norris at the moment, who is down to second place in the championship, just 10 points behind, going into the home round for the pair of them at Silverstone this weekend. Artem Markelov, winner of race number 2 on the Sunday, is third in the standings at the moment. Alexander Albon in fourth, Sette Camara in fifth right now. And other Brits like Jack Aitken doing okay. He's in 8th place at the moment. And Arjun Mayani, who many people thought had already sort of rage quit in the car just after the last round in France with that radio message, made his way back to the next race, as I thought he would do, to be honest. He didn't. Ironically enough, he scored more points in France as well, and didn't score any in Austria. So there you go. So championship standings in GP2, and they roll on to Silverstone this weekend. So that should be fantastic to watch, and hopefully you will be able to watch it, because it will be really, really good. Anyway, so this is Monday Motorsport on Motorsport Radio. My name is Lester. Thank you very much for tuning in. And coming up very shortly, we will get on to talk about the World Rallycross Championship, and also the half-season results in BTCC.
Motorsport Radio.
Zaki Racing Team. Hi, this is Nick Hamilton.
Hi, I'm Jamie Chadwick.
Hey everyone, I'm Bradley Smith.
Hi, I'm Joan Zacco.
Hi, I'm Bradley Wright.
Hi, I'm Seb Morris.
Hi, I'm Dan Linfoot from Honda Racing, British Superbike team, and this is Motorsport Radio.
Hi, I'm Callan O'Keefe, and this is Motorsport Radio.
You can have it till you can't take no more.
It's Monday Motorsport on Motorsport Radio. My name is Lester. Hello and welcome to the show. If this is your first experience of Motorsport Radio, then you are very much welcome to stay and join us, as we usually do this show live every week, almost every week, depending on what we've been doing at the weekend, but almost every single week live. And also on the Thursday, this Thursday, it's the Superbike show with Kiko Giles and myself. We will be reviewing all of the big action, and it would probably be the biggest event that happened at the weekend, Formula One aside. It was, some say it was one of the biggest and best ever MotoGP races in many years, at least, if not right up there of all time. Kiko Giles and myself, and you can get involved in dissecting all of the action that happened at the weekend in MotoGP this Thursday, live at 8 on the Superbike show here on Motorsport Radio. Hello and welcome. At the moment, then, we are talking lots of different motorsport, and we're going to be delving into the World Rallycross Championship in a moment with Mr. Phil Kinch, who is still on the line with us, and brand new contributor for this weekend, brand new debutant to Motorsport Radio, Stuart Richards, also from the Checkered Flag. We'll be welcoming them back as well. One thing that we're also launching as well this evening is the brand new Motorsport Awards. What are the Motorsport Awards? Well, they are a brand new award ceremony. It'll be taking place in December, and it will be rewarding and recognising many people who have achieved things, or perhaps not got the recognition that they probably do deserve, having had a fantastic season in motorsport. And we will be, throughout the show, I suppose, telling you some of the categories. And we told you about some of the biggest categories earlier on, like best driver, best rider, things that you'd also expect. But also, we're going to be awarding things that perhaps no other big awards ceremony does as well. We're going to award people like the media industry as well, and the business motorsport industry. Yes. So we're going to try and combine everything and try and recognise lots of different unsung heroes, if you like, as well as the big talents yet to emerge in motorsport. And some other big categories in the Motorsport Awards for 2018 include the Race of the Year. Could be in any sort of championship, in any different category. Also, the Best Championship. Again, in any sort of category, anywhere. Best Race Car. Hot topic, that one. Best Race Bike as well. So you'll be able to vote on all of these and nominate who you think should maybe win the Best Club Series as well. So we're also going to recognise some of the unsung club racing, as well as club racing championships of the year and track day organisers as well, and the best new championship or series as well, and there have been a couple of great new championship and or / series so far this year. So the Motorsport Awards, the second lot of categories unveiled for you there, and that is a lot of what we'll be doing, and we'll be unveiling a lot more throughout the show and in the coming months as well. Phil Kinch still on the line with us. Phil, the Motorsport Awards, you are one of the judges already, being a TCR guru and dare say a tin top guru as well. You're looking forward to it. Unfortunately, Phil, you can't win an award as you are a judge, but yes, you do get to, I'm sure a lot of people on the Facebooks will be already very envious of you being able to wield your wand of influence, I suppose, and decide perhaps who gets a Motorsport Award.
I'm open to bribes. Did I say that? Oh, that was live. Sorry. Yeah, no, I'm actually.
I think they're called commercial partnerships.
But the microphone was live. No, I'm looking forward to this. I'll be honest. This is something I normally take part in at the Checkered Flag with the team anyway. It's good fun to sort of look back over the year and to see how things have been on the various series and everything. But there's a lot of different awards, as you just mentioned, Lester, that I'm looking forward to having a think about and seeing, what is worthy and who should be voted in. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. It's good fun.
Absolutely, yes, indeed. And Connor Jackson back with us once again. And yeah, Connor, we will be looking forward to the Motorsport Awards, and we will unveil, as I said, we're not going to keep talking about it too much throughout the rest of the evening, because we've got other motorsports to reel off. But yeah, Motorsport Awards, it's going to be good, and we've got another set of award categories to unveil a bit later on. But if you want more information on the Motorsport Awards, head to their website, motorsportawards.com, or you can just stay tuned to motorsport.radio as well. So anyway, moving on to the World Rallycross Championship as well. And well, this is very much Phil Kinch's area of expertise. And as you are currently the journalist for the World Well, you tell us exactly what you do. You do many different things.
I write about many.
I can't keep up with what you do.
Many series. Now, the list is ever growing. I'm going to have to cut some down at some point. No, so as a lot of the regulars will know, and if you don't already, to give you a sort of quick heads up, so I cover the World Rallycross Championship and also the European Rallycross Championship at the Checkered Flag. A lot of Rallycross fans will have hopefully tuned in last weekend to see what is known as the magic of Rallycross in the World Rallycross Championship, taking place at the iconic Holliers circuit in Sweden. It's one of the best circuits on the calendar, and to be honest, as Andrew Coley and Andrew Jordan quite happily confirmed several times during the weekend, if you're going to go to a Rallycross event, Holliers is one of them. I'll be honest, the circuit sort of reminds me a little of like a tiny version of Spa or the Nürburgring, for comparison.
Tiny version, yeah.
Oh, a tiny version. Yeah, with all the undulations, hairpins, fast corners, sharp corners. A challenging joker, which seems to catch quite a few people out, to be honest, during qualifying this year. But it is a very fast circuit as well. It's one the drivers love going to. There is always a big crowd. To give you a bit of a sort of statistic to help you understand, the actual village itself has about 200 people, and the attendance this year for the World RX of Sweden was 45,000.
Oh,
so just a few descend,
bad.
to see the magic. But yeah, it's this weekend just gone was no different. The championship is shaping up nicely. I'll be honest, to head towards Johan Kristoffersen taking his second title, and we're only at the halfway point to the season. But once again, Johan has been supreme, it can be said, with his performance. However, there were a few big names that had some difficulties, that suffered some problems over the weekend as well. Sebastian Loeb, Peter Solberg, Solberg, two of the big names that struggled with the Joker. Petr suffered in qualifying 1 with an issue in the car. Almost looked as though the car stalled, to be honest, as he was taking his Joker lap. Sebastian Loeb had contact in several different qualifying races, and at one point contact with Timo Temesianov in the Hyundai, which led to a rear left suspension issue, with Sebastian just trying to crawl around and get a time set. The Joker definitely played its part at Holliers. All the more, Johan Kristoffersson in the Volkswagen was happily steaming off into the distance, although he didn't get a clean sweep of qualifying wins as he did in Norway. Teammate Petr Solberg took Q3, and the 2 VW drivers finished 1-2 in qualifying itself. There was, however, quite a lot made about the Peugeots. So both Timmy Hansen and Sebastian Loeb had brand new upgraded Peugeot 208 WRXs this weekend, with Peugeot absolutely determined to try and take the championship this year, being a fully works supported outfit.
So what sort of upgrades did they bring?
So it just seems to be improvements in the car. I think a big thing was made of the centre of gravity in the car, just to try and make it more sort of settled as you're going over the various surfaces. Again, with a rallycross car, you've got to be able to get it to work on asphalt, on dirt, on gravel, various different types of surfaces. As well, you're going to have smooth surfaces, bumpy surfaces. So a rallycross car really goes through an absolute beating when you consider it will do 4 laps in a qualifying race and up to 6 laps in a final. So lots of improvements to the 208, something that Peugeot are working really hard on. However, it was another close fight. The Audi drivers were both in there, Ekström and Baccarat. The Hyundais of Temesianov and Niklas Gronholm, again pushing hard the Works cars, considering they're a privateer outfit, and the GC competition Renault Megane as well, the ProDrive built Renault Megane. I think Jérôme Grosset-Janin actually had the better time of things compared to his teammate Guerlain Chicheret, as far as I was concerned. Yes, I practiced, you see. I practiced. 5 years, it's doing well. So yes, it was quite an exciting weekend in Sweden. As far as things concerned, the top 12, as we know, go through to the semi-finals, and in semi-final 1, the top 3 cars were Johan Kristoffersson, Timmy Hansen and Matthias Ekström. Unfortunately, Loeb, Yannis Bellmanis in the lone starred entry, and Niklas Gronholm fell out from semi-final 1. In semi-final 2, Andreas Baccarat, Kevin Hansen and Jérôme Grosset-Janin, second time I'm saying that right, managed to get through to the final, whilst Temesianov, Petr Solberg being the big name, and Robin Larsson missing out on a space in the supercar final itself. Another thing that's been brilliant about this year, despite Kristoffersson leading from the front as far as things are concerned in World Rallycross, is that every single supercar final has not been boring or predictable. You cannot possibly say.
Is it ever?
Is it ever? Never. This is rallycross. Exactly. You can't say those words. Formula One. Anyway, so no, we had a spectacular supercar race, supercar final. Kristoffersson got the lead basically, and just left everyone as he does. He seems to be at one with the Volkswagen Polo. He's doing really well with that car once again. So something that I've reported on already this year is that the Volkswagen Polo has just upgrades. It's an evolution, not a revolution, of last year's car. So Kristoffersson took the win on the road. He beat Andreas Baccarat, who was second. Again, he's having a better year in the Audi than he's had previously. He's very consistent on the podium. Now, for those watching this live on Free Sport or on the internet, as they were, you would have seen that Matthias Ekström came home third. Timmy Hansen was left in the gravel just before the velodrome, around halfway around the circuit, after contact from Ekström, and Kevin Hansen retired on lap 4. However, if you look at the official results, there was a steward's inquiry made. Yes, and again, involving Matthias Ekström. I think it's the second time this year. So The contact between Timmy Hansen and Matthias was deemed to be unsporting, so Ekstrom was demoted down to 6th place and Timmy was left in 4th, which means Jérôme Grosjean, third time I'm getting that right, thank you very much. You need an award for pronunciation, by the way. I think Lester will add that in. Jérôme Grosjean took the first ever podium for GC competition in the Renault Megane. So a wonderful, wonderful effort, considering the cars were built over the winter. They've been built by ProDrive and they've been pretty good so far in their first season of competition. So Kristoffersson, Bakker, Grosjean at your podium. And as far as the championship's concerned now, this does mean that Kristoffersson is on 165 points.
He's stretching away, isn't he?
Oh, he is definitely. He's got a nice 40-point lead. He could, in fact, retire now from an event because a perfect win in a World Rallycross Championship event is 30 points overall. So he could, in fact, retire from the next round in Canada in 5 weeks' time, still be leading. But the pack is close behind. I think it's going to be another one of those years where if Kristoffersson does take this, second place is going to be the hotly contested position. When you consider you've got Bakker, Solberg, Loeb, Timmy Hansen and Ekstrom all in the fight for second, and then not far behind Kevin Hansen and Nicolas Gronholm in a bit of a joust for 7th place overall. So definitely a good weekend. Like I say, the guys are on a 5-week break now before they head to Trois-Rivières with Canada. I think I pronounced that right as well. I'm not sure. No, I don't. I need to practice more. But yes, 5-week break, so lots of time to recharge batteries, a bit of development for the cars, getting the cars air freighted over to the Canadian circuit, and then from there seeing what happens. A brilliant weekend overall, I must admit, and it's one that's definitely, again, there's been surprises throughout.
Yeah, and we are, just like in touring cars, in the second half of the season, which is shocking because, well, I don't know, it's just all going too fast. It
is, it's flying by, honestly. Anyone would think it's summer.
Or something, yeah. It's definitely something. I don't know.
Yes.
But yeah, Canada is round 7 of 12 in the FIA World Rallycross Championship. And if you're not too sure as to where, of course, regular viewers will already know, but let's say casual rallycross fans and lovers and people who just generally don't get time to watch it. Phil, how can they actually tune in to the action?
So if you are a viewer in the UK, you can find all the action on Free Sports, who are showing the World Rallycross Championship live this year. On a Sunday, you can see a 2-hour programme which rounds up all of qualifying, shows the semi-finals live, the final live, and normally you'll also see the RX2 International Series final live. The European Rallycross Championship for supercars final is often live if that's on the same weekend, and also the European Rallycross Championship for Super 1600s. To add in an incentive, and I implore all motorsport series to follow this because it works so well. Something that the World Rallycross Championship started at Silverstone and has carried on since, is they're showing qualifying live on Facebook on the Saturday and on Sunday.
It's just, I mean, everyone's there filming quali anyway. Just put it on Facebook.
Exactly, and it works wonderfully well. Andrew Coley, whether he's got Andrew Jordan beside him on comms or he's got Guy Wilkes beside him on comms, cameras inside what is literally a small area inside the spotters tower on top of a truck, literally. So, they're showing qualifying live, all of the action. Neil Cole doing his bit, literally sticking his head inside of a car door once a driver's just done 4 laps as fast as he can to find out how they feel. I honestly, if you want to get into Rallycross, this is the way to do it. Facebook on a Saturday and Sunday, and then the semi-finals and finals live on Sunday on Free Sport. Well worth a go.
Boom. You heard it here first. And also, while you're on Facebook as well, why not check out the old Spotters Tower? What is the Spotters Tower, Phil?
It's a Facebook group that I happen to be involved in.
One of many.
One of many, yes, it's true. Yes, this is a Facebook group that myself and a certain Mr. Vince, who's mythical to some of us in the programme, have set up over the past few years for Rallycross fans, drivers, team members, anyone who loves the sport of Rallycross to join and get involved and discuss all manner of things. Rallycross, America's Rallycross, British Rallycross, European Rallycross, French, any type of Rallycross series you can think of, all we talk about and discuss in that group.
If it's flat out and sideways, then it's Phil's your man, basically. And also, just to also, since we're plugging everything that you're doing anyway, tell us what else, well, we are, what other motorsports that you also keep on top of, which are not necessarily rallycross?
So that would be the touring car stuff as well, then. Indeed, this is where Mr. Richards will come in handy as well. So, avid fan of British touring cars myself since 1988, and every now and then I happen to have a go at writing about some of it at the Checkered Flag. It seemed to work out quite well at Croft last time, because my BTC Norlin boys, but just for you, took a win, so I'm hopefully their good luck charm. And on top of that, I also cover this thing called TCR as well, that seems to be a worldwide touring car phenomenon even. So TCR UK, TCR Europe, WTCR, any other TCR series you can think in Europe. There's lots of things I'm tweeting about or writing about or blogging about or discussing about in various touring car groups, including the official touring TCR Talk group and also the TCR UK fans group, if I remember as well.
And when you say the official Facebook group, that's just not like you saying, oh, well, I'm the official because I've got more likes than anyone else. That's actually, you had a chat with Marcello Lotti.
There are things in the pipework. Let's put it like that. I've nicked the title. There are things in the pipework, but if I have my way, my plans for world domination. When do you never get your way? I mean, let's not discuss this live on air. The wife may be listening. Let's just leave that there. No. So yes. Anything TCR, I am normally following, tweeting, sharing, Facebooking, blogging, writing about. Exactly. You can find me anywhere, and if you're really getting fed up with me, you can sort of say as well, and I'll just go in a corner and cry.
That never happens. Don't worry about that, Phil. So yeah, and anything touring cars as well as World Rallycross, basically. And yes. Well, it's almost like magic that we're going to be talking touring cars right now on Monday Motorsport on Motorsport Radio. Hello, my name's Lester. Connor Jackson is here, and Phil Kinch still here, and brand new to the show, brand new to Motorsport Radio as well, and hopefully we've not quite scared him off just yet. He's not too traumatised. Stuart Richards as well, journalist for the Checkered Flag, who's reporting this year on BTCC and the Renault Clio Cup. Is that right? Yes.
I am. Yes, you are correct. Yeah.
Excellent. And if for those who tuned in to our visual radio coverage, you might also notice that Stuart is a great fan of the underground rail system / maps and various arts history surrounding that sort of thing. Yes. And if you're listening to that probably didn't make a blind bit of sense to you. So apologies. But it was just pointed out. A comment flooded in, that's all, Stuart. From fellow train aficionado Dan Marr as well, who's not here, but stalking the show. Hello Dan, good evening. On to touring cars then. And just like with World Rallycross as well, if I can dare make that analogy. It's halfway in the season now, and we're that's an amazing amount of races already. It is the 60th anniversary year, in case you didn't know, and we have a special race coming up at Snetterton. Stuart, just tell us more.
Basically, on the third race of the day at Snetterton, it's going to be, I think it's a 60-mile race. It's going to have its own special qualifying, and the race, all the cars will have no ballast, so everyone's on equal footing, and it's just going to be a straight blast. It's double points as well, and hopefully it can, as the British Touring Car Championship usually does, bring up some exciting races. Exciting racing, yeah. I'm
fairly certain that will happen at least one occasion. So is the double race length race then? This happens in what, the third and final race?
Yes, the third and final race, yeah.
Okay, and how are they going to do that exactly? Because the fuel tanks are only so large.
There has been talk of them bringing in pit stops to change the tyres, but I don't know how they're going to do it without the fuel. I think they should be fine, because I don't think they barely go through a whole tank in just one race in general, or even half of it anyway. So, but they've obviously worked it out. They've talked to teams to plan this out, so I imagine everyone's all good for it.
Yeah, and it is to celebrate, as I say, the 60th anniversary of their touring cars of the BTCC variety. And in the early days, there was more than one touring car championship. Yes, so there is still hope for TCR UK yet. There was. But BTCC emerged triumphant and has been the touring car championship in the UK since 1958. I think it was, for now.
I sense dissension in the ranks, gentlemen.
Causing trouble. Don't get the Facebook people on us. We already said in I think a previous edition of Touring Car Talk that Jason Plato was probably going to leave because his car was rubbish, he's getting too old, he's past it, and then what does he do? Goes and
proves you wrong. He proved you wrong, Lester, didn't he?
Not quite. He was probably watching or listening to our show. Why wouldn't he not? Maybe we just provided the motivation for the team. It was just very coincidentally timed, which a lot of my statements usually are. But I suggested that because realistically though, Phil, what the hell has happened? Just to update you, what did happen at the last round in Croft, the Subarus almost came out of nowhere to, I would say, dominate 2 of the 3 races.
I can almost hear the word boost ringing in my ears for some reason. I can't say why. The social media. Yep, there we go. The air raid sirens are ringing again. It's a combination of a lot of things.
Mostly the boost.
To be honest, I think I can sort of say there's an article I read this week that quite happily summed up everything. There's been a lot of work by Subaru and Warren Scott's BMR outfit to try and get this car sorted. It's not the same as all the other cars on the grid, the rear-wheel drive BMWs, the front-wheel drive cars. The Subaru is a completely different animal, so let's sort that out first of all. There's, because of the type of engine it has a flat 6, it doesn't have your standard 2-litre turbo. It has a standard 2-litre turbo, but a flat 6 configuration. And also, there's a centre of gravity weight put on the car as well, as a way to try and keep it even with the rest of the, losing my teeth, equal, there we go, with the rest of the field. Because of the way it is, when the car first came out into competition, it was competitive straight away, and taking race wins, it was in good hands. So add into this, the car's been developed front aero. There's been various small tweaks across the car, over the past few weeks since Alton Park. And then on top of that, yes, there was a boost increase, but as it was widely recognised by experts in the championship, 3 to 5 brake horsepower. That's not a big increase at all. That's not enough for them to suddenly go, look, I've got a nitro in the back of the car and we can make it go 10 miles an hour faster.
Well, you say that, but they did get, I think, first and second in quali.
They did.
Sutton by 1.5 tenths, won the race by nearly 9 seconds, race number 1 at Croft. Sutton getting the victory, Plato close second, to win a touring car race by almost 9 seconds nowadays is practically unheard of, and to do it as a 1-2 as part of a team. And then the Subaru only going to at Sutton again, only going to won race number 2 as well. So you say there's been maybe a couple of different tiny little things, plus a tiny little boost as well, maybe.
And also add in the fact they're on a rear-wheel drive favoured circuit as well. There's a lot that mixes in. That, and again, I can hear social media exploding at the mere thought of this. There's a lot that's also mixed in that worked out. The moons align, the planets align for Subaru. We came to Croft and they took 2 wins out of 3.
I don't know, to be honest, when you're at the back, basically, let's not just sugarcoat it.
No.
When someone like Jason Plato is struggling towards the back of the grid in the previous round, at, where was it, Alton?
Yes.
Forget now. And then all of a sudden is at the front of the grid and not just on like a fluke, is doing it out of performance. It says really that it's, to me anyway, I'm just reading in between the lines, it's actually just more of one thing than the other.
I like I say, the article I read explicitly explained that there were, I believe, about 70 different developments thrown at the car at once.
Well, if they can do it from one round to the other.
See, this is the thing. There's no guarantee that same form's going to happen at Snetterton, and as Stuart will attest and back me up on this, I'm sure. You can't guarantee the same thing's going to happen at Snetterton as well, either in the first 2 races or in the 60-mile race either. The beauty of the BTCC is that competition is as even as you can possibly get, considering the configuration of the cars, front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, different base weights, the different types of engine configurations, etc. The beauty of it is it's about as equal as you can potentially get with the balance of performances that are involved, but
didn't look very equal.
It didn't, no, and I will admit it's very rare you see a team at the back of the grid one weekend and at the front of the grid the next, and as we saw,
did Toka just mess up a little bit?
I couldn't say, to be honest. If they have, it's a very big public mess up, but I don't believe it's the case. They, like I say, do everything they can in their power to keep everything equal. So I believe potentially this is a case of one team has had a better, they've just thrown development. Subaru's just gone, right, let's get this car sorted. We need to get the championship. They've thrown everything possible at it, and at Croft it's worked. Snetterton, they could be at the back of the grid or fighting midfield again. We won't know till we get there.
Stuart, what do you think? What was the reason in your mind for the massive turnaround in performance for those Subarus?
And I've been, throughout the whole of the coverage, both Tim Harvey and Paul O'Neill both explicitly said that there have been other development as well, because obviously they also for some reason get all the flack from the fans, because everyone's all running in saying boost, 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 boost and all that. And you saw a few of the teams and drivers make sort of like snide remarks on Twitter towards the team as well, which was kind of unnecessary, and it's unprofessional really, because of course you might feel a bit upset that your car, which you've been developing through the year, is just very inching slowly, and all of a sudden the Subaru comes out of nowhere and takes 2 victories after being nowhere for practically half the season already. And I just feel that there have been influences from different levels, mainly from Subaru trying to get their car back into sort of like competitive action, and another side sort of saying, look, we've got probably one of the most successful drivers at the back here, and the reigning champion not really doing as well as expected, not really having the chance to defend his title. And it's just something went on, and something might be changed in time for Snetterton, and we just don't know. We'll see when it rolls around in a few weeks' time.
I suppose we will just have to wait and see, is what I do usually say. But I'm slightly reluctant to suggest any more about that there has been anything other than just a great bit of engineering go on. Connor, do you have any opinions on this? Doesn't matter if you don't. I'm not going to push you on it.
Well, as you say, I think touring cars is very much a series where you do see drivers up and down the field.
Yeah, we can still hear you. No, we can't hear you now.
You've gone quiet on us.
I thought we could
I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, go on. There you are.
There you go.
I'm sorry, guys. But no, touring cars is a series where we do regularly see drivers sort of move up and down the field, and I'll admit this does seem a very dramatic change, obviously, but it's interesting to see the sort of the concern that fans have over a driver being so far down and now winning, especially in somewhere like touring cars where they've had I don't think any repeat winners throughout, at least not back to back. Apologies, Sutton was back to back, Alton to Croft, but considering the range of winners in this series compared to any other series in either national racing or international racing, this is by far the most open field of any major series. Yet fans will get very upset over a particular driver performing even more out of performance than perhaps they're even used to. And yes, it's interesting to see Plato do so well, but I don't think it's completely unnecessary, especially considering the changes that Phil and Stuart has gone on about with the development of the car. These touring cars only have a couple tenths difference between them, and as you say, the race was won by 9 seconds. Can you imagine if a Formula 1 race was won by 9 seconds? Then we'd all be cheering about, they pushed him so close to the finish. Well, it's obviously not the case for a series like this, but as you say, I do think it's a bit of an overreaction from some people who perhaps were just trying to rule out Plato for any sort of championship fights coming into this year.
Connor Jackson, unbelievable. Phil, Connor saying that it was maybe just a bit of an overreaction by some people. Me.
I've got to say, I must admit, it's not often you see a touring car race won by a margin, says he who follows TCR UK. However, I do believe race 3 was won by a margin as well.
Brilliantly so as well, yes.
Yes, it was. So yeah, no, I'll be honest, we all like a close touring car race. Everyone loves a close touring car race. If you've got cars nose to tail on the last lap chasing each other for the win, brilliant. But you're also going to have teams that have setup data, previous experience, good drivers, you know, a whole combination of things that ends up that one day a driver will come along who does just dominate. So as we said about Subaru, there's a whole plethora of things potentially that all aligned for 2 wins in the same day to take place. I think you have to look back to 2005, I believe, for the same driver to win 3 wins in the same day, and almost unheard of now. But
who was that?
That was Dan Eves in a Honda, and I believe, yes, in a Honda Civic, I think. Integra. But at the same time, there you go, thank you, Stuart. And at the same time, it's also a case of, you know, every now and then you'll get a race that's won by a car that's at one with the car. You know, it's, you know, so some drivers just gel with cars. We've had Jack Goff, for example, who won one of the first races at Brands Hatch this year, and he's been a full title contender. 26th on the grid in Croft in a front-wheel drive car on a known rear-wheel drive circuit, himself admitting in the media, you know, afterwards, I have no idea what's happened on the car. You know, the car's had an imbalance, he's not been able to cure understeer or something, and he's in the middle of the pack, yet he was running races earlier in the year. So, as we know, it swings and roundabouts in British touring cars. Some circuits suit certain cars and drivers, others suit other cars and drivers, you know. There are known rear-wheel drive circuits, there are known circuits that favour front-wheel drive. It's how the calendar works, and how the cars work, and how the championship works. So yeah, you can have your close races, they're brilliant and exciting. You can have your races that are won by 4, 5, 6, 9 seconds per se, but at the same time that can be just exciting because we had a new winner as well at Croft. Let's not overlook this. Exactly. Two races won by a Subaru, and also a brand new winner in the shape of Dan Lloyd in BTC Norling. That's twice, by the way. I've got you in there, Bert, by the way. Yeah, I'll look for a message on Facebook later. To Bert Taylor. Thank you, sir. So, yeah, you know, a brand new winner in Dan Lloyd. Second weekend in his Honda Civic. Let's not doubt this. The Honda Civic, former Team Dynamics, a brilliant car to have. They've got the Toka engine as well. Again, another potent weapon to have in British touring cars. And Dan literally did what he does best, what he's done in TCR UK as well. He started on pole. He led from the front. He held off Tom Chilton, vastly more experienced driver, in the Rapid Ford Focus, and he took the win by a mile. Some drivers have just got that talent. Others, you know, so Ash Sutton, as you say, you know, took his first win, first race win of the day by a mile. The second one, not so much, but again, full ballast and everything. Dan, small amount of ballast on the car, a country mile of a win. So it can be the case. You'll have close race wins, you'll have, you know, country mile wins as well. But it's good to see new faces winning on the podium.
Definitely,
at the top of the podium and doing well, and hopefully to carry on doing well for the rest of the year.
Yeah, it was amazing to see Dan Lloyd celebrating, and the team, and well, I suppose everybody. I don't think there's a single person anyway who doesn't like Dan Lloyd, a hugely all-rounder, popular victor in touring cars, race number 3 at Croft. Stuart, what were your thoughts?
I was going to point out about how his car looked at the end of the third race at Alton Park as well. The team did a great job to put the car together for him, and he's repaid them probably the best way he could.
Exactly. And he is... I mean, you mentioned that he's a bit underexperienced, Phil, versus maybe Tom Chilton. Although I would probably say, I mean, Dan has had the same amount of experience in racing, but just as an all-rounder, really. Yes, Tom has raced more touring cars, for sure, but Dan Lloyd's also raced GT racing as well. He's done a lot of that, and he has been in BTCC previously as well. He is currently, I think he's still leading the TCR Championship, I think, as well. So he's doing that as well. He's set the BOP for TCR UK. Maybe not that that's got anything to do with his victory. Maybe it did. I don't know. But yeah, Dan Lloyd, I think, driving better than he ever has done, I would like to think.
I think you can argue the case. He's racing in 2 major front-wheel drive championships this year. So yes, he's leading the championship at TCR UK. Perfect record, 6 wins out of 6. He's taking his first race within the British Touring Car Championship. He set the balance of performance, just to get that straight, for all TCR cars taking part this year around the world. So
I didn't know it was all of them. I thought it was just TCR.
No, it's all the TCR models around the world are governed by one balance of performance, and there's an argument there to carry on as well.
So one Daniel Lloyd set the BOP for the WTCR.
He was one of a few. Yeah, he's one of a few. But no, it's also a case of he's able to, like I say, he's had the experience. He's in 2 front-wheel drive championships. He's in a front-wheel drive car. He's finding his sweet spot. The talent is there, and a lot of people have known this for a while. It's just him getting the chance to be able to show it and prove it. And as he's done at Croft, as well as in TCR UK, he is there. He's at the front. He is a star of the future, and one that will hopefully go on to get more wins and have more success.
I'd argue actually he's a current star at the moment, really, if anything. So yeah, Dan Lloyd. I mean, Croft was a funny old weekend. Maybe not something that we can probably. I think we're all just thinking that results will be different going into certainly Snetterton for the rest of the season. Anyway, maybe Croft was a bit of an unusual result in that we had suddenly Plato and Sutton, those Subarus, pretty much dominating for most of the weekend, having been almost nowhere for the previous rounds anyway. But for going into the next round anyway at Snetterton, it's the, what are they calling it, the Diamond Jubilee Special Race, Anniversary Race?
The Diamond Double, they're calling it, the final race.
Diamond Double, okay.
Yeah.
And it's to celebrate, if you didn't know, the BTCC's 60th anniversary, and it's the Diamond Double because it's a double, almost a double race length race in race 3 at Snetterton. What else, Stuart, in your mind, do you think touring cars could do? A lot of people over the years have asked for things like night racing, extra tracks, maybe going to different places. Next year we know that Rockingham is dropped, but we know it's running new circuits, for example, and that's been talked about on Touring Car Talk on Motorsport Radio before. But in your mind, just from a total fan point of view, from if you had total reign, if you were in control of touring cars right now, if you were Alan Gow, what would you be doing? I'm not suggesting that touring cars is anyway like it needs fixing or anything, but just as a total fantasy, let's just say, here you go, Stuart. Here's touring cars. You have that. What direction would you take it in? What potentially new things, or if anything, would you do, or would you keep it all the same?
I find I'll probably have the most cliched answer among most British touring car fans by sort of like attracting new cars to the series. It's been great having the Alfa Romeo, although it's not a new manufacturer, but having the new Civic shape as well with dynamics. You've got to. What I like about the British touring cars is that it's mostly independent teams, and you can't have a manufacturer coming in, although it seems that way with Subaru, coming in and bossing their way round and spending all their cash to get a car up the front. I once I was on some motorsport thread somewhere, and someone was sort of like reminiscing about the Super Touring era. So, make no doubt about it, the Super Touring era was great. Probably a bit too young.
So it's this era as well. This is a classic era.
That's what I said. I said it's got rid of all the sort of like the issue of money, and it's brought teams together. It's brought independents in, and you can come in with an idea of a car as long as it fits the base dimensions, and you can make it a winner, as we've seen, and even catch a surprise podium or two if you want. It's with sort of like changes to races, you don't want races going on too long. I think we've got the perfect sort of like
3 races in that length of time. Is that too long? I find personally, if I'm watching a full day or a full weekend of touring cars, I mean, I'm not just watching touring cars, I'm watching everything else, IndyCar, Formula 1, BSB, if that's on as well. And sometimes if I'm watching 3 races of the same championship in anything, in any category, it can all seem a little bit like the racing is just a bit like wallpaper, like it, you know, it just, I'm not taking it in. Do you know what I mean? I'm not physically, maybe that's more to do with my lack of attention span. But do you know what I mean?
I find they get that balance right by not having the races go on for so long. I was watching Alton Park rounds, the races only go on for about 20 odd minutes, and I find that's perfect because obviously a full Formula 1 race can go on for an hour, hour and a half and all that. Yeah. And all those 3 touring car races only went on for just about an hour, so I find they get that balance perfect. And in regards to sort of like night races, it'll be nice, but I can imagine most circuits nowadays have sort of like a curfew set up, so they're not bothering whoever's living down the street from the local circuit.
Although Snetterton, where Touring Cars is going next, is also holding a 24-hour race, actually, later this season in August. It is, albeit, it is a tin-top race. It's the 2 CVs, 24 hours, and Motorsport.radio will have exclusive live coverage of that right here on Motorsport.radio. Yay!
I can imagine they're a bit quieter than a touring car, though.
Oh, yes.
Yes. A lot, basically. But yeah, and Snetterton, by the way, is right next to Connor Jackson's home. If you were like looking at a map and seeing Connor Jackson, it was like there, sort of. Not really, but
yes, I wake up every day and just look at the rolling hills of Norfolk. Not that they exist.
Yeah, no, they don't. But yeah, Connor Jackson being of Norfolkian descent. Is that a word? That's not. That's.
We'll make it a word, Lester. It's fine.
Good. But yeah, so Connor, I want to introduce you into this debate as well about, again, I'm not suggesting that touring cars is broke in any way. Alan Gow did say that he does want to reduce the number of cars next year, potentially. That's not definitely been announced, but it comes at the same sort of time when TCR UK seems to be on the rise and more teams involved in touring car, BTCC, seem to want to potentially make the switch, and maybe a lot of people were speculating, well, maybe Gow came out and said, yes, well, I'm going to reduce the numbers anyway, just because he knows maybe that some of the teams are going to make the switch over anyway. But anyway, in terms of what you might do to BTCC, if anything, if indeed you even care, what would you do and why?
Well, as you say, reducing numbers, I do see it as a future-proofing move by Alan Gow. If we say that TCR do take some of the teams that Touring Cars currently has, then you will potentially look at a series in 2-3 years' time that, although probably could fill those 32 spots, probably couldn't fill them with quality teams, let's say, or at least teams that could achieve a full season budget. And the good advantage of at the minute is that obviously everyone can afford to race, but you don't necessarily want a situation where you have a couple of independents who join in every 2-3 rounds just because they've just about got the budget to go racing. If you want people to constantly be there throughout the season, people to cheer, people to be consistent, as it were, to prove that you have a strong championship and not just, oh, I can come and do 2-3 rounds and that'll be perfectly fine. Because I think that would that would really hit on touring cars' sort of integrity, let's say. So I'll be with Alan Gow on that. After all, I really don't think 32 is necessary anyway. I mean, once a driver falls below about 20th in any particular race, do we really see?
Yeah, you don't. To be honest, no, we don't. Unless you are a fan of that particular driver or whatever. As you said, if they've gone down past 20th or the starting, you're not thinking about them. You don't care about them unless they crash or whatever.
No, not really. I mean, I have drivers I keep an eye on in touring cars. A lot of them, let's say, race below the top 20.
You're like an underdog, don't you?
Well, I just like the drivers I see come up through the series I like. But these drivers never really get any proper coverage, and the problem with 32 cars is that you don't get the chance to really sort of expose the smaller drivers. And when these young drivers come into the series, they promise to their sponsors the opportunity, the exposure that they get through being with ITV4, with being the top national championship effectively. And if you're running around at the back of the grid, not necessarily through any fault of your own, if that's, say, you with a smaller team, then you are going to struggle to keep those sponsors later on, and that's just going to create a whole sort of slew of problems of sort of not being able to prove themselves just because they're in a smaller team and they don't get the coverage, so they're not being represented as well as they perhaps should be. Obviously, I know the argument with smaller grids means it's less chance for rookies, but I think this is only really an issue for the first, say, 2-3 years of it going, with certain drivers staying on. But surely after that, surely after that point, old drivers will move on, and you can have the opportunity again to sort of revamp the young talent coming through.
Yeah, exactly, and just like I think you said as well, maybe it will weed out some of the less committed people who don't have the budget for a full season. And when you've got, in any championship, drivers coming and going, or turning up halfway through the season or dropping out because of mostly finances, it looks bad, basically, regardless of however much you like the new guy, for example, Dan Lloyd. It just makes it seem like, for me anyway, I've always thought personally the mark of a solid championship is where you start or you end the season almost with the same amount of drivers and the same actual drivers as you started the season with. For example, like Formula One, there's very few, if any at all, driver changes mid-season. But
well, I mean, Formula E proved this precisely. Is that it was, although it was very successful in its first year, they had a slew of driver changes, and
Trulli, Villeneuve.
Yeah, exactly. And it was very hard for a lot of people to sort of keep up with the championship, or at least keep up with the protagonists that they were interested in. If a driver only did 2-3 races and then suddenly they're gone because budget or commitment elsewhere, whatever. And Formula E did fix this, and it's really helped push and promote their brand when you've got similar people all fighting with the championship. I mean, it was great to have Jean-Eric Vergne join in, and I think it was the second round of Formula E, or even the third round, have the season already started. But it robbed him any chance of really being a championship protagonist, because he'd missed those rounds. He was already low on the championship, and he was only really there to sort of be the face of F1 as he was at the time.
It was an F1 reject.
Well, yes. But I don't know what Phil's opinion of this is, but when you have a championship that constantly replaces its drivers, I'm not talking Dan Lloyd, that was a one-off, but constantly replaces its drivers, it doesn't create a championship that people want to follow, because people don't always keep up with who's racing that weekend.
Yeah, you don't know whether you don't know whether you're coming or going, do you, Phil?
It does create a bit of a difficult side for the fans, especially because fans, in the nicest way possible, fans flock to drivers that have something for them. So, Jack Goff fans, Aidan Moffat fans, Jason Plato fans, there's something out there in that driver for the way they do things, the cars they've driven, exactly. And those drivers are there year after year after year. That's what gets you the following. So having the same drivers, like Connor said, having the same drivers in the championship year after year is a good thing. My thought on this, and I'm going to use Gordon Shedden as an example, is that eventually there comes a point, though, obviously as a driver, where you've been in the same championship for several years. You've been in either good quality race cars, poor quality race cars, you've won championships, you've taken a win, you've scored points, whatever the level is you've gotten to, is that there eventually comes a point when you think, well, what more can I do? And even with fans, looking for regular drivers year after year, and the British Touring Car Championship being the example that, the minute the championship's finished, we are all, as fans, on tenterhooks waiting for the announcements that, first of all, there are 32 TBLs locked out for the following year. And then as soon as that announcement comes out, everyone is then waiting for the drip feeding of driver announcements to say, yes, so-and-so is driving for this team, so-and-so is driving for this team. The inevitable game of chess that touring car drivers play in the UK with who moves to what team. Gordon Shedden this year, though, decided, last year decided, I want to move on. So after being a Honda driver, and a brilliant partnership with Matt Neal for at least several seasons, he then decided, right, I want to go and do something different. He's now an Audi Sport driver racing WTCR with some of the drivers that, to be honest, he's already said, half of them he grew up with posters on his wall, watching them on telly. The other half are kids out of school that he is their idol that they're racing against. So you've almost got a 3-generation gap taking place. So
yeah, you got. I think Yvan Muller still knocking it out, and I think Tarquini as well.
Oh yes. So it's, Muller again having come out of retirement, this year
for like the 100th time.
Exactly, yeah. But that's what I mean. There comes a point you can have drivers carrying on. Matt Neal's been in British Touring Car since 1991. Jason Plato since 1997. So these guys have been there, done it, however many titles they've won, however many race wins they've done, they are still there. They are measured as the best. And that's where younger drivers come up against. But the way that touring cars is nowadays, you've got that many options. If you're not doing well in one series, you can go to another. If you're not doing well in British touring cars, for example, we've seen drivers from last year take the step back down to single mate tin top. Mike Epps in Renault Clio, and Wharton Eels has gone off to do Mini Challenge. You've got drivers that have moved on to other things like Shedden going off to WTCR. So there's other options out there. You can still follow the way we have social media and coverage around the world. It still works. A fan can follow where their drivers go. But I utterly agree with what Connor said in the beginning, which is having your same staple field of drivers year in, year out means you keep that following. So if BTCC does reduce down from 32 to 26, you've got less cars on the grid to crash into. It's more difficult to get on there. Talent and money is going to, be bigger factors for the teams. Budgets,
or maybe the money's going to be a bit more concentrated, though.
I would say, talent still has a big part to play, but money, as we saw from Jordan Kane's, announcement, you've still got to have a good budget behind you, as well as being able to drive a car and take it to a race win at least, or be able to set a car up so you can go and be competitive. So those two factors still remain. If you reduce down the grid slot, it just becomes even more competitive. And like a game of musical chairs, there is going to be several people that miss out, or several teams that decide, you know what, it's not for us anymore, we're going elsewhere. So either way, as long as you've got your core drivers coming back year after year, that's where your following is.
Well, if you disagree, perhaps, and how dare you, with Mr. Phil Kinch, then let us know, because we are live, not for very much longer, because we're going to be finishing soon, but still leave your comments in the comments box below, wherever you tuned into this, or if you're one of the people who I know actually take this show as an audio podcast, which it is available in audio version in your podcast listening place, wherever you get that from, and you actually take it on the road with you on the way to work, or maybe on your way to another racetrack, then get in touch with us. Let us know if you enjoyed listening to it, and don't bother if you didn't. But yes, just say it how it is, might as well. So final thoughts then on the remainder, on the second half, the official second half of the season, which kicks off in a few weeks' time at their Snetterton, from Stuart. And what do you think we will see, not only just from, I think I've already asked you about what we'll see from Snetterton, but for the rest of the season then, maybe your hopes or predictions about the second half?
Well, I've got to split myself from being a professional into a fan here, so probably much like Connor, I do sort of like keep an eye out on sort of like the underdogs, but whenever I do see a top talent, I do sort of think, yeah, they deserve where to be, and I can imagine Colin Turkington being pretty much the man to beat for the remainder of the season. He's, despite, I've sort of put this down as sort of like a big surprise after what happened to him at Donington Park. He barely scored any points. He retired from one of the races. It seemed like he was nowhere. Then all of a sudden at Alton Park he's head of the championship, and it's just a testament to how good of a driver he is, really. I can imagine he'll be very tough to beat. Tom Ingram as well. I think his start in race 2 at Croft was absolutely amazing, considering the fact he was in a front-wheel drive car against the Subarus and a couple of the BMWs behind him as well. And Tom's, as long as he doesn't have a mid-season slump like he normally does, I think he'll be another driver to keep an eye out as well. It's probably just the rest behind. They can just all sort it out themselves. It's so unpredictable. Those are the only two that really come to mind, really. And because, as I think it was Phil earlier sort of saying about Jack Goff, how he was near the front at the start of the season, then all of a sudden he's all the way back down in 26th, probably due to ballast, and I hear sort of like balance issues with the Honda. But it's going to be so. I'm really looking forward to the remainder of the season. It's going to be good.
Yeah, exactly, Phil. Everybody else can sort themselves out.
That's the theory. I'll be honest. I personally, there's two things I'd love to see. I'd love to see an Andrew Jordan win, because I think he's so close in the BMW. It's going to happen. And I would also dearly love to see Tom Chilton take a win in the Focus RS as well, because that car is rapid. With or without ballast, and Tom just seems to have gelled with it. And also Sam Tordoff. I feel he's been personally the unluckiest driver so far during the season. He should be
due a bit of good luck, isn't he?
He is. He's been so unlucky with retirements. He's so fast in qualifying. He, again, has gelled with that Focus. So I'm hoping Sam has a much better second half of the season. And just a quick dig, now that Dan Lloyd's taken a win at BTC and all in, no pressure, Chris Smiley, but, come on. Let's have a second win for the team. So yeah, plenty to come. Lots of changes, and the double diamond race is going to add its part to play as well.
Very quickly then, since I did ask Stuart earlier in the show, I suppose it's only fair to ask you as well, Phil, since you've got a more than a keen interest in the old touring cars. If you were Mr. Alan Gow, what would you change, if anything? Not that BTCC is broken or anything, I'm not suggesting it is. No. But if, let's say, the keys of touring cars were left in your control, how will you wield your power? What would you do differently? And
three words for you: blue ribboned race. So quite simply, what we need is to have, as far as I'm concerned, V8 Supercars has the Bathurst 1000.
Yeah.
DTM
well,
has
every championship's got one.
Well, every do, yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, the British Touring Car Championship deserves to have a blue ribbon race. I also think you could tie the Jack Sears Trophy into this as well. So it's sort of a twofold hit into one. Whether it's a double diamond race, if that would become a Jack Sears race, that's one idea. My thinking from when I was watching Group A in the 80s, you used to have the RAC Trophy race. So it's quite a simple case of everyone would come along from Europe in Group A cars, various class racing, and have a go. Back then it was a 3-hour race. You don't need a 3-hour race, that's too long, as Stuart said earlier. 20-minute races are fine. So a double diamond race, a Jack Sears Trophy race, if that became a regular thing, I feel the BTCC needs to have a blue ribbon race.
Maybe as well, from my point of view, I don't know if Connor also has any things he'd like to chip in. You don't have to be obliged. But from my point of view, just quickly, if I were Alan Gow, I would probably, yes, do something along the lines of what Phil said. Have a marquee event, really, that the one big massive event that everyone knows that they can go to. It would be at Silverstone, and it would be on the support bill of Formula One. Boom.
Oh dear.
Yes.
I think that'd be good for publicity, but I'm just not a fan of Silverstone for the touring car racing, to be fair. I think even though there's probably no other bigger motorsport than Formula One in Britain, I think a better circuit than Silverstone, where we could have a big blue ribbon of race, as Phil says, could be a better choice. Like, I have seen old footage of sort of like endurance races where they had the two drivers at Donington Park, and that's a great circuit as well. So it's we have our dreams, but I can imagine there's probably people out there who's completely disagreeing with me right now. But
you're allowed your dreams, and yes, sometimes these dreams do come true, Connor.
Yes, well, I've heard your statements about putting touring cars on the F1 support bill before, and how Formula One events should promote the national event of the country, whatever series happens to be the top for wherever they go. But
makes sense.
I do see your point. However, this does obviously create promotional problems, especially for, say, the
don't worry
British
about
Touring.
that. Someone will deal with that.
Especially for someone like the British Touring Car Championship that does have a lot of media presence, a lot of VIPs that it will have to cater for. And the good news about Formula 2 and GP3 with Formula 1 is that they don't have an awful lot of support paddock presence. They are just there simply to support the F1 racing. With something like touring cars, you would have to create a whole different sort of paddock area to help.
Well, Silverstone's got 2 fully functioning international paddocks.
True, but then you also have the ticket price problem, which, as you nicely suggested earlier, I don't think touring car fans would be too happy about taking out a mortgage to see their favoured event.
To be honest, if touring, I'm just saying if, it will never happen again. If it was on the bill of a Formula 1 race at Silverstone and the ticket prices were roughly about the same, it would be more justifiable to pay that, knowing that you've got 2 brilliant headline events, not just 1.
Maybe, but again, touring cars would get less track time, or if not less track time, then less favourable track timings, let's say.
Anyway, it's all fantasy. Anyway, so thank you very much, folks, for chipping in with your suggestions as fans of BTCC, and Connor as well, and your insights into the earlier things, Formula 1, namely, and also as well, one other final piece of housekeeping, I suppose, to do, in that all this evening on Monday Motorsport, on Motorsport Radio, we have been sort of rolling out the red carpet for the Motorsport Awards. And in the Motorsport Awards, we will be having, later this year in December, awards like Driver of the Year, Rider of the Year, Team of the Year, the Young Rider of the Year, that's anything from 16 years old and below, so very, very young Rider of the Year, and Young Driver of the Year, and also the Best Battle in a Race. Who will take that, I wonder? That will be interesting to see. Also as well, there'll be other categories, and not just as well in the driver and rider stakes, because we'll also be looking at Race of the Year as well, and Best Championship. And that could be in any sort of category, in cars, bikes, karting, anything at all. Best Race Car will be awarded in the first ever Motorsport Awards, exclusive to Motorsport Radio. Best Race Bike and Best Race Car. The Best Club Series as well. Could Formula Ford 1600 take a Motorsport Award? One of my personal favourites. Racing Club of the Year. Who will take that prestigious racing club? Also, Track Day Organisers. Will the Track Day Organiser who you favour take home a Motorsport Award this year? Or could it be one of these? An industry award? Potentially a Journalist of the Year? By the way, anybody on this panel tonight will not be winning a Motorsport Award, I'm afraid. Sorry, guys. So Journalist of the Year will be awarded to someone other than us. A Commentator of the Year, always a contentious topic. Who's been taking the best picks of the year will award that as well. Best Marketing Campaign, yes! You never see any of these awards anywhere else, maybe for a good reason. Best Fan Engagement as well. Who's been lighting it up on social media, and who has provided the best social media engagement, and also the best TV production as well for motorsport. All very, very crucial things that really do need deciding in the very first ever Motorsport Awards that kicks off later in the year in December. I think it's December the 9th. The week after, I think, the Autosport Awards as well. So that will be a nice little end to the official end to the season for the first ever Motorsport Awards. So that'll be good, won't it? There'll be something certainly to look forward to. My name is Lester. This is Motorsport Radio. It's been Monday Motorsport. Thank you very much to our panellists this evening, to Connor Jackson, to Phil Kinch, and to do you know how many times I've almost been said your name, Richards, instead of Stuart Richards? But I have almost every single time. I have to just sorry about that. Anyway, I will get it right. But
it's all good. It's all good, man.
Stuart Richards, just let us know then, since you are new and not many people will, I suppose, know of you. I'm just presuming that they don't. Maybe they do. But how can people keep in touch with you, Stuart? Away from
I'm on Twitter at TCF Stewart. The first 4 characters all capitals, and you can find me on the Checkered Flag website. I do, as I say, the British Touring Car Championship and the Renault Clio Cup.
Exactly, yes. And Phil Kinch also, coincidentally enough, also on the Checkered Flag website, reporting there amongst other places as well. And as can Connor Jackson from time to time. Yes. Connor Jackson, thank you very much for being on tonight's show. Phil Kinch, thank you very much for being on tonight's show. And Stuart Richards, thank you all for being on tonight's show. This has been Monday Motorsport, a Motorsport media production for Motorsport Radio. And we'll be back again probably next week, I guess. But before then, we'll be on the Superbike show this Thursday, live at 8 on Motorsport Radio. So join myself and Kiko Giles for some Superbike talk, as well as some MotoGP as well. Thank you and good night.
This is Monday Motorsport with Lester Forbes on Motorsport Radio.